friends, it's Bella in the kitchen. Just trying to get myself settled here so you could see me in action. Today's the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. I'm so happy to be here again in my bright, sunny kitchen and thinking about the ways God has been faithful to train me in wisdom as a woman and as a sister in Christ, as a friend, as a mother. And as women, we have many attributes and different roles that we play in others' lives. So today, I'm teaching from the Flourishing Table about something that is a family tradition in my house. It's my grandma's meatloaf. And I was thinking that we're not all getting out right now to the stores, so I'm using what I have in the house. And I think that's really important, that wise women are practical women and they're always prepared. So I wanted to start off with a verse to encourage us, and then we'll jump into the recipe. I'm actually preparing this for this evening, because tonight around dinner time I have a prayer group meeting online, so I have to switch my hats to homemaker and wife, to ministry leader and prayer warrior. So again, I like to be prepared, and so I'm preparing my dinner now at 11:30 for this evening. And I feel that ties into this this verse about the Proverbs 31 woman, a noble woman. Some translations call this wonderful, strong warrior of faith. So I'm going to read that to you now. Put my glasses on so I could read my verse. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her for all that her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise in the city gate, at the city gate. Wow, isn't that a wonderful word of encouragement for the women that are, on the front lines for their families right now, holding it together as if everything is normal when the whole world outside of our homes is spiraling out of control. And I do believe that it takes a special kind of woman to do that, a woman who is equipped for what's to come, so she could still have joy in her heart even though there's sadness and stress around her. So my grandson Caleb and my granddaughter Lila, they are in North Carolina, and that's really hard for me to be away from my babies. But for such a time as this, God is giving me this to do, and that kind of fills my heart, because I know that once they're finished with homeschool today, they'll sit and watch my video. And my grandson Caleb wanted me to talk about him. He was kind of a little concerned that I had not mentioned them in any of my videos so far. And really at the end of the day, why do we do anything except for the legacy that we leave behind? To honor God and to be a blessing, a sweet aroma, and the torch to be passed on to the next generation. Those examples will stay with them for a lifetime. The way my grandmother's examples left me, an impact that resounds. My aunts, my auntie, my Aunt Anna, my mommy June, and my grandma May, and my grandma Eva. I mean, there is not a moment when I'm in the kitchen that I don't think of one of them. But I also think of my grandchildren, this generation rising up, and how my life will be a testimony to point them not only to the traditions of our heritage as Italians, but also, more importantly, above all things, to our Father, Heavenly Father. So I love that, again, we can combine the practical, everyday things that we have to do. And I do think it makes it that much more fun, because I tell my girls the gift of hospitality is a command that Jesus gives us. Be hospitable without grumbling. So let's embrace this beautiful gift that we have, an opportunity to be the hands and feet of Christ, while passing the torch to this next generation who really needs us, to remind them of really those stabling, those traditional things that we carry on in our families that bring comfort and a sense of security. Because we know the world is changing minute by minute. This is the information age. But really, it's wonderful to know that the same way my grandma and her mother made meatloaf probably, 90 years ago, I'm making it today. And that's a way to keep these loved ones in our heart and present in our lives, and also part of the history we pass on to the future generations. And you know what I love? Like my daughter, Alyssa, now, she's creating her own traditions too. And I think that's what we should do. We should be an inspiration to teach others to find their special recipes and traditions that will make a mark on their children's lives and their neighbors' lives. A lot of my neighbors last week were busy making my mom's banana bread after watching my first teaching, The Bread of Life. I cannot tell you how happy that made me. The comfort it gave me, really, to know that my mom is still feeding people. I am tickled pink about that. And I think that is something really special that we can all do for each other, especially in a time of such uncertainty. So the dish that I'm going to make today is, like I said, it's very cost effective. It's very reasonable. Everybody's got chopped meat in their freezer. I actually like to combine chopped pork, beef, and veal. But because I'm working with what I have, today I'm just using ground chuck and ground pork. Now, again, a good, wise Proverbs 31 woman. We have a well-stocked pantry. So in my pantry, I had a can of peas, LaSaur peas. It's really important that you use this brand because they're sweet and they're small and they're just perfect for this recipe. I'm also going to use a can of tomato sauce, and this is the flavor, the brand I happen to have, but you can really use contadina. You can use any type of tomato sauce, but you just don't want it to have any other ingredients in there besides salt. I do use the ones that are salted because you're going to add the salt anyway, so it's okay to have salt. Also oregano. Anybody saw my mishap while I was preparing my steak pizzaiole, I almost used turkey rub instead of oregano, but today I have oregano. I am going low on it, so eventually I'm going to have to head out to the store and buy some oregano. The next ingredient is seasoned Italian breadcrumbs. Now, again, you can use any brand. You can even use a gluten-free breadcrumb. Progresso has one, and it's terrific. And I've used it very often, but this is the one I have on hand now that my Italian market sells. You can also make your own Italian breadcrumbs by adding cheese and parsley, garlic powder, salt and pepper. So if you do have just plain on hand, you're just going to add an extra measure of those ingredients to bring the flavor that you desire. Eggs, we're going to work 2 eggs into the meat. Some Pecorino Romano grated cheese. This is actually Parmesan Reggiano. It's not my normal brand, but again, I'm working with what I have. But I usually like to use Pecorino Romano. Some peppers, potatoes, which you don't need to peel if you have this type. I actually like the skin on them, and we're gonna slice these very thin. And then I have some cut up chopped onion, and I'm gonna slice some onion. So, and of course, EVOO and salt and pepper. So, this is one of those meals we would typically eat on a Thursday evening. My mom had like the days of the week all figured out. She was wise in managing her household. So there were some ingredients she always had on stock in the pantry, and specific meats and poultry that she would have in the freezer, like chicken cutlets, a whole chicken parts. So at any moment she can kind of pull those things out and whip up a delicious meal. On Monday nights, 90% of the time, except in the summer, we had soup on Mondays. And soup is a very cost-effective meal. You could really stretch it, throw all the vegetables that you have in the fridge, and she would make a beef soup that she learned from her Jewish friends. She would make an incredible chicken soup, and she would make a great Italian wedding soup and a minestrone. Sometimes it was lentils. So every Monday was soup day. And Tuesdays and Thursdays were kind of negotiable. So it was either like a roasted chicken dish or chicken cutlets, and sometimes it was this meatloaf. Wednesdays was traditionally a fish day. Most Italians ate fish on Wednesdays and Friday. Don't you see the balance in the menu? I love that. It's really important that we switch it up, and we have some fish, we have some poultry, we have some beef. And then Saturdays was always steak. We actually had a grill in our kitchen, a gas grill. My father owned a kitchen cabinet business, and we had the best kitchen in town. So I grew up with an incredible gas grill in my kitchen, and my father would grill his sirloin steak, and the whole neighborhood could smell it cooking. It was pretty amazing. We had one of those industrial fans, and it would just go out around the neighborhood. And Sundays, of course, was pasta day. So that's the way my mom set up her week. And again, some of the things you just have to buy fresh. I like to buy my steaks fresh. I absolutely buy my fish fresh. But chicken, when we were kids, my girlfriend Jeannie's mom would bring us to the chicken market, and we would get chickens at the market. That was incredible. There's no other chicken like those chickens. But I usually keep my chicken on hand in the freezer. So with that being said, let's start preparing the ingredients. So I'm going to take my eggs. That's 2 eggs. And I have about 2 pounds of ground meat in this recipe. Now, if you have a large family, you can, you can actually double this recipe. This is for just my husband and I again. And if I have a little left over, I usually find someone to give it to, or it's great for lunch. And I'm gonna put about 1/2 cup of grated cheese, some chopped onions, and breadcrumb. So I am not going to, and that's about a cup of breadcrumb. I am not going to be putting this in the oven now. That I'll do after, about 45 minutes to an hour before we're going to eat dinner. Adding some salt. And, I always tell you, be careful with the salt, because once you got it in, you cannot take it out. Okay. And anyone that knows anything about chopped meat, you just don't want to overwork it. Okay? You don't want to overwork it. These other ingredients I'm going to save. So now I'm getting into mixing up this chopped meat with the onions, the eggs, the cheese, salt and pepper. And again, I have ground pork and I have ground beef. This is one of those, 15-minute meals. My mom was very adventurous, and at any given day, you could find my mother fishing. You could find her playing mahjong, canasta. She was very social. She had a life besides us, and I think that's a good thing. But there was always a great meal that we came home to, always. There never was a time that I can remember as a child that I didn't come home to an incredible dinner. We used to beg my mom, beg her to let us have a TV dinner. Remember when Swanson came out with the TV dinners? Yeah, that wasn't her thing. When they started to make a little money and go out on a Saturday night, that's when we were able to actually get a TV dinner. My brother Lenny and I were so excited to get our little table set up. So, but other than that, there was a meal every night on our table. And it's so funny, my husband, Phil loves to go out to eat. Even though I think I'm a pretty good cook, he's like, don't cook, it's just the two of us. But, then I'll have something out and I'll think, oh, that doesn't even come close to mine. So, but I think it's a good mixture, So this meatloaf, you can see it's already done. Here it is, my baby. I'm gonna move this out of the way. I hope you could see, I hope I have my camera positioned correctly. The technology, I don't know, the Proverbs woman didn't really need to know technology on top of everything else she had to do in her home. But I'm trying, girls. I am really making an attempt to get that right with a little help from my friends. I have a precious neighbor that has been very gracious to come in the morning and kind of help me set up. So thank you, Claiborne. Okay, so now I'm going to slice up these potatoes, which we want to do them real thin because they're going to cook alongside the meatloaf. So you really want them to be nice and thin. And again, depending on the size of your family, I have to pay attention or I'll chop my finger off over here. But depending on the size of your family, that's, how many potatoes. See the thinness of them? You don't want them real thick. And then I'm going to place them all around my meatloaf, okay? Now, this dish, like I said, I don't know how long I'm going so far. What's the time? It's almost 15 minutes, so I am gonna, for time's sake, I'm gonna place these around here, and I am going to open up my can of tomatoes so you can see exactly what that is gonna look like. So I have my can of tomatoes. I am going to drizzle this on my meatloaf. Okay, very simple. And again, I hope you can see all this. It's hard for me to tell, but I'll position it in a way that I think you could see it all. And I'm drizzling this tomato sauce like this. Okay, very easy. This is as basic as it gets, girls. I'm not going to use the whole can. This is a larger can than I normally would use. But now I'm also going to top it off with some sliced onions. Okay, so I have my onions. I'm just generously, I love onions. These are sweet onions. I prefer to use them. Okay, then I'm going to take my oregano and I'm going to generously sprinkle that. Okay, and I'm going to also give a nice little generous sprinkling of the grated cheese. And then I'm going to top it off with some olive oil. Okay? Now I'm going to cover this with foil and put it in my fridge until later on today. Once I take it out, I'm gonna bake it at 350 for about 45 minutes. You wanna give or take. There will be juices, should get bubbly, and the meat should start to get, everything should look like it's coming together. About 10 minutes before I remove it from the oven, I'm gonna open up my can of peas. Now, I know some people don't like peas, but you gotta try this, because I always tell people, just trust me with this. They don't taste, peas add such a sweet flavor to the dishes that I use it for. So take your can of peas about 10 minutes before it's coming out of the oven, and you're gonna just dump it all over this. And this, all you need to do is make a salad. You got your vegetables, potatoes, peas, onions, you got your protein, and you got a delicious sauce. I promise you, your family's gonna love this. I know it's not the typical meatloaf with brown gravy, but I think my family did a pretty good job with this meatloaf. So I think you'll enjoy it. I'd love to hear your comments. I just love that I know that I get emotional when I think about it, but excuse me, who gets emotional about food besides me? But there's such a strong connection with love and food for me, and I'm sorry, I'm having a moment. I'm away from my grandchildren and I miss them. But when I feed my kids, when I'm at my daughter's and grandma's cooking, they call me Nini. They're so happy that I'm there and I'm feeding them. And it's just such a joy. And I know for right now, I can't do that, but I feel like I'm so blessed to be able to do with you. So I hope you enjoy this. I know I went off a little bit, forgive me, but anybody that knows me knows how I am. So God bless you all. Be that Proverbs 31 woman for your family. Enjoy the blessings of your family. Be hospitable without grumbling. It's a gift that we get to do this. It's a true treasure, and it'll last a lifetime. Okay, love you girls and guys if you're out there watching, and let me know how you like it. Okay.